Impact of Influence.
Covering true crime throughout the Southeast.
Hello, friend. Matt Harris here. Seton Tucker joining me shortly. This episode, we're going to have an update on Shanquella Robinson. First, we want to tell you to check out the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Those numbers are climbing really quickly, and I love it. Part of the Evergreen Podcast Company. You can find Impact of Influence on Facebook. Comment on the stories we do. Also from Facebook, you can go over and find the YouTube channel. So I'm going to give you a mini background, a little bit of history on Shanquella Robinson. We've done multiple episodes. In the show notes, you'll be able to go back and find out exactly what episodes will work for you and to kind of fill in some of the holes before we get to the latest on Shanquella. So let me just give you a synopsis. October 28th, 2022, Shanquella Robinson traveled with 6 people to Cabo, Mexico for vacation. And the next day, she was pronounced dead in her vacation villa. The first reports were that she died of alcohol poisoning. Then an autopsy from Mexico listed her cause of death as violent and with severe neck and spinal injuries. Her death became even more complicated when a video surfaced on social media weeks later of Shanquella being brutally beaten by one of her trip mates, Deshaun Jackson. We'll edit that. Deshaun Jackson. And it was filmed by other members of the Cabo Six, is what they call the travel mates. An autopsy of Shanquella Robinson conducted in Charlotte on November 17, 2022, found Robinson's spine intact, contradicting the past claims of Mexican authorities who had initially said Robinson's spine was broken. November 18, 2022, the FBI officially opened an investigation on Shanquella's death. On November 23rd, an arrest warrant was issued levying charges of femicide in the Robinson case from Mexican authorities. The name of the suspect in the warrant was not released, but we're going to have to assume that it was one of the Cabo Six, obviously. So that's because like a mini thing to get you into the latest on that. But again, show notes full of all the other episodes we've done in Shanquella Robinson. You're going to hear about a lawsuit that's happening right now. Shanquella's father, who was very involved with her life, very, very involved, who we've interviewed a bunch of times, is not part of this lawsuit. I want to point that out too. But here is the latest.
So that brings us to a lawsuit that was filed and a press conference that was held about the filing of the lawsuit, where Shanquella Robinson's mother appeared, also Sue Ann Robinson, the attorney representing Salamandra Robinson, the mom. Again, Bernard, who you've heard us interview many times on the podcast, not involved in this lawsuit. The lawsuit, filed in Superior Court of Mecklenburg County 2 years after Robinson's death, was brought on behalf of Salamandra Robinson. It names the U.S. State Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation following last year's announcement by federal prosecutors that they would not pursue charges in the case due to insufficient evidence. They are saying, the lawsuit says, that Salamandra Robinson suffered damages exceeding $25,000 due to the wrongful death. Accused the FBI of withholding records related to the investigation the family requested through FOIA. And the lawsuit further alleges negligence on part of both the State Department and the FBI. And the wrongful death lawsuit also names her travel companions, known as the Cabo Six. Again, just a reminder, in our show notes, we'll have the dates of all the other episodes that we have done regarding Shanquella Robinson. So the press conference was held. Where are we going to start with, Seton?
Well, let's hear from Shanquella's mom. It's been 2 years since her daughter's death. Let's hear what she has to say.
Good evening. I'm Shanquella Robinson's mother, Salamandra Robinson. And I would like each and every one of you, if you can, anything you can do, step in and help us with justice. We need justice for Shanquella Robinson. It has been 2 years, and there's no reason that no one has not been arrested yet. And I need justice for my child. Thank you.
And the anguish is still there, of course, as it is with Bernard. The pain of losing a child is amazing, the depth of it. And so let's go to a part where the Sue Ann Robinson, the attorney, speaks.
As we stand here today, we must confront the reality that those responsible for her murder have not been held accountable. The lack of justice serves as a painful reminder of the vulnerabilities faced by individuals, especially young Black women, when they seek adventure in unfamiliar places with unfamiliar faces. It is our responsibility to ensure that such tragedies do not go unanswered. We are here today not only to honor Shanquella Robinson and her family, but to call for action. We demand still, again, and until the end, that authorities take the necessary steps to investigate this case thoroughly and bring those responsible to justice. We believe that every victim deserves to have their story heard and their rights upheld regardless of where they are in the world. As we reflect on the past 2 years, we also look to the future with determination. We will not rest until justice is served for Shanquella Robinson and her family. We urge all of those in positions of power and soon to ascend to positions of power to prioritize this case to ensure that accountability is not just a promise but becomes a reality.
So they want to get the ball rolling.
Yes.
They want to get something going with this investigation.
And just to take you back to April of 2023, U.S. Attorney Sandra Hairston and Dina J. King, who represents the Middle and Western Districts of North Carolina, wrote in a statement that in every case considered for federal prosecution, the government must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a federal crime was committed. Based on the results of the autopsy and after a careful deliberation and review of the investigative materials by both U.S. Attorney's offices, federal prosecutors informed Ms. Robinson's family today that the available evidence does not support a federal prosecution. So that is their stance on this. Now, it was ruled, as I mentioned earlier, a crime of femicide in Mexico, but the State Department, FBI, Attorney's Office are not saying they have the evidence to do that.
Well, because the autopsy that was conducted in North Carolina said inconclusive, I believe.
It was different than it was what the Mexican authorities had originally said.
Which was really interesting in our previous episode when we had a pathologist on. What she said was that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't a homicide. Just investigation has to happen. And
again, listen, look at the show notes for when you can find those other episodes. Sean, you want to move to more of the mother?
Yes, I want to, and this clip is really difficult to listen to because she is clearly very frustrated and angry, as any parent who's lost a child would be. So let's listen.
Well, it's not going to bring back Shanquella Robinson, but it's that I know that the FBI should have done something at this time, after 2 years ago. I know a lot of stuff that was in the phones of Shanquella Robinson that I gave to the FBI, and the FBI looked over it like it was nothing. And, and just like you just pushed my daughter up under the rug when you should have been arrested these people. You had a video where she was being brutally beaten, but you want to mess with the autopsy and say that she did not have a broken back or spine, when the FBI are deliberately lying, because attorney had already, not my attorney, but attorney had already told me don't let the FBI mess with that autopsy, that they were going to switch it around. And that's exactly what they did.
Well, I mean, that's pretty harsh.
And I'm fed up with this stuff. I need justice for my child.
I mean, I get the anger. It's pretty harsh accusations against the FBI, but that's because you're frustrated and angry.
Well, and if she says that she has evidence that she turned over that was in Shanquella's phone, what's happening? There could be things that are happening behind the scenes that she's not aware of,
right, could still be
because they're
working on
not communicating with her. But yeah, if you feel like you have this evidence that these people were responsible for my child's death,
right,
you would be extremely frustrated and you'd be singing from the rooftops, doing everything you can. And in this case, I think what they've done is file a lawsuit to try to get attention to this.
Yes. The beating in and of itself, there's not anything the U.S. State Department can do about that. It was in a different country.
Right.
So it would only be the murder charge. And we'll get to that in a second. But you were talking about greasing the wheel and whatnot. This is more of Sue Ann Robinson, the attorney.
I don't want to be here. I didn't want to be here. If it was up to me, we would have had a thorough investigation and had answers for this family 2 years ago. But we're here, so we're going to fight on.
Yeah, so they're going to continue to fight. In fact, we're here. This part of the press conference was interesting, and I'm not sure exactly what this is all about because well, let's hear it. But it's about a FOIA request, and it's crazy to me. Let's hear that.
In our lawsuit, we allege we have presented the FBI with a public records request in order to be able to assess what was done on the case. And their response was, we can get back to you in 5 years, which obviously would be an even more significant delay, even more significant erosion of evidence in the case, memories of witnesses, etc. So it's an unacceptable response. Well, I think nothing, in my experience as an attorney, greases the wheels of justice like litigation. So we're going to see, how the courts fare it out. We're, as Ms. Mondi says, we're hoping for justice. And most importantly, with a family like this, with what has happened, they have an open wound every single day. And you're trying to also heal, but you can't because the wound is not closed. You don't have the information. You don't know what's happening. You're not getting questions resolved. And it's a situation where a lot of the questions that they have the answers are there. They're just not being provided with it. And that's what the lawsuit is really about. Ms. Mondi, Shanquella's family, they do not want another family to have to go through this. There shouldn't be a way for a United States citizen to be murdered abroad by United States citizens' participation, and for them to be able to come back to the United States and be on base and just be insulated from liability, insulated from accountability, and for the family not to receive closure. That should not be the case. And so that's why we're here, and that's why we filed this lawsuit, because we want to take action and show the authorities that we're serious, that it should not be swept under the rug, that her life mattered, and we're still here, and we're going to continue to fight. So we do appreciate everyone who's here and supporting the family.
The 5 year thing, let's start with that. That seems like why the number 5?
I don't understand it.
If it's a current, I can see if they say, hey, we're under investigation, we're still investigating, so we don't want to release certain things. But the 5 year number, I want to know more about that.
I do too.
I
don't
entered a
understand
FOIA
it.
too, and they didn't even tell me 5 years. They just said, get out of here, you.
Did they respond?
No, it's something, we will, check with so-and-so or something,
Oh, no. I thought it was really interesting, though, and a really excellent point that she made is 5 years. Again, we don't understand the 5 year thing, but memories fade and evidence, it goes away. Mm-hmm. So I think that the urgency that they're feeling now 2 years later is very valid.
And also remember, though, when she keeps calling it a murder, according to the feds, the attorney's office, all that, they at this point aren't considering it. There's not enough evidence to convict of murder, and they believe that the autopsy showed that it may not have been murder. So they're saying that, and I understand, because that beating was horrible to watch. There is the question of, according to the U.S. Attorney General, the attorney's office, they cannot convict anybody of murder. They don't have enough. So that is worth pointing out. Not that I need to defend them,
but what was on the phone? I'm interested in this.
I know,
that was
right?
turned over to the FBI.
But again, on the phone could have been reasons for the beating. It still doesn't
prove
murder. So therein lies the issue. And here's the attorney Sue Ann Robinson again talking about extradition.
The issue with respect to the extradition is that the Mexican authorities have advised me that they've taken all the steps pursuant to the treaty that would be needed to be taken. They've done a full investigation. They presented their investigation packet to the proper authorities at the State Department. It would then be up to the U.S. Attorney to work in conjunction with the State Department in order to authorize and initiate an extradition, which we would all see publicly, because that would be a U.S. federal case where they would have the opportunity, whoever is being extradited, to say there's not enough evidence, there is enough evidence, and have their day in court. This has not been initiated because we would all know about it. So the issue is that process has not even begun, and we're 2 years out from the incident. So that's what we're saying in the complaint, that the U.S. Department of Justice has not initiated that procedure, and it's been 2 years.
The extradition episode we have, we'll put in the show notes exactly when it was. We had extradition expert, also your dad who's an attorney, was on with us. And it is a difficult thing.
I know. I've got to go back and listen to it, because now as I'm hearing her speak about this, I'm like, I just remember there are a lot of hoops. It's very complicated.
It's very complicated, and also depends on the relationship the country has at the time with whatever country you're doing the extradition. Right now, it's not great with Mexico and the U.S. as far as that goes. And there's certain rules about the U.S. sending people to other countries. Like if the other country's a penalty is way worse for the said crime that the U.S. has, then there's also a problem with that. And again, they are right now, the State Department and the attorneys are saying that they don't have enough evidence to charge murder. So that would mean they're not going to extradite based on murder. That's the way I understand it. You can check out that episode. But again, Bernard is such a sweet guy. And the father, who was very, very involved in Shanquella's life, he just is going about this in a different.
Yeah, I mean, my sympathy goes out to both parents, and I think everybody grieves in different ways, and everyone handles situations in different ways.
And I think maybe the lawsuit will get somebody from the Cabo Six to talk. That's been a problem up till now.
During the press conference, they did. I think the question was asked where they are now,
Right.
and I don't think there was a good answer to that.
No.
I don't think we know.
Yeah, they're spread out, I think, different places. All right. Well, there you go. Any comments on this? You know where to go. The Facebook page, Impact of Influence, the YouTube channel. Please subscribe and comment on the YouTube channel as well and share it. Love to hear from you. We will continue covering cases throughout the Southeast. If you have ideas on that, you can send us some info, part of the Evergreen Podcast Company, and we'll talk soon, friend.